If you thought that world-famous actors are always secured and protected from accidents during spectacular stunts, then you don't know these stories. In today's video, we present you 10 actors who almost lost their lives during filming. We're not only going to show you the most glaring accidents that almost led to huge disasters and actors who clearly got cocky, but also what happens when directors expose their actors to huge risks. It's going to get really intense, so stay tuned here at Wonderlane. Let's start with number 10. There is hardly an actor who is considered as fierce and invulnerable as Jason Statham. Thanks to numerous roles in action movies like Fast and Furious or Transporter, he is considered one of the toughest guys in Hollywood. What many people don't know is that Jason Statham almost died in 2012 during the filming of The Expendables 3. While working on a scene, he was supposed to be driving a truck. Unfortunately, the brakes on this vehicle were broken, which caused Statham to drive off a small cliff into the middle of the water. What doesn't sound so bad at first glance is absolutely life-threatening at second glance. The doors of the car can't be opened underwater because the pressure is too great. However, Statham was able to escape through the window and swim to the surface at the last second from a depth of several meters. This is anything but easy. According to his colleagues, Statham only survived this accident because he is an extremely good swimmer and diver, as he was a good high diver before his career. Let's continue with a scene in which the director apparently endangered the life of his leading actress just to get the most authentic performance possible from her. The whole thing happened during the shooting of one of the most successful movies in history, namely Titanic. While in a romantic drama like Titanic, you would expect there to be no dangerous moments. In this case, it's quite different. As the ship is about to sink, there is a scene in which Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio, who played the two main roles, are caught freezing by the waters. During the filming of the scene in which Winslet appears to be on the verge of drowning, things were anything but safe. Instead of protecting the actors from too much water, director James Cameron made sure that the water masses became even stronger, and Winslet was apparently unable to find a way out. According to some crew members, Winslet briefly feared for her life during this shoot, thinking that the water could not be stopped for some technical reason. In the end, she was saved at the last second, but the shock was extremely deep. Next, we come to a life-threatening accident on set that didn't happen to any actor, but had severe consequences for one of the biggest stars of all time. That is Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was supposed to shoot a short commercial for Pepsi in 1984. But during the shoot, a catastrophe occurred that almost ended the King of Pop's life prematurely. During the shooting, a pyro effect was ignited too early, which caused Jackson's hair to catch fire. Since he had an extremely large amount of hairspray in his hair at the time, the flames suddenly became larger and thus hardly controllable. It was only after a few seconds that the team noticed the incident and tried to extinguish the fire. They arrived, unfortunately, too late, because in the meantime, large parts of MJ's scalp were burned, which meant a month-long operation marathon for him. Allegedly, during this difficult time, he even became addicted to painkillers, which from then on accompanied his life and for many are partly responsible for his death in 2009. On number 7, we come to a series star who miraculously survived a violent accident on the set in 2016 by a hair's breadth. Namely Dominic Purcell, whom most people probably know for his role as Lincoln Burrows in Prison Break. When the 5th season of Prison Break was finally filmed in Morocco in 2016 after a 7-year break, millions of fans were looking forward to a comeback of their favorite series. Things almost didn't come to that though. On May 30th, a metal bar weighing several dozen kilos came loose during filming and fell from a height of several meters right onto Purcell's head. Although the accident only broke his nose twice and left him with a laceration, which meant a break from filming for a few weeks, if the bar had hit him a few centimeters more centrally, he probably wouldn't have had a chance to survive the accident. Next, we come to a scene that shows that even the most expensive Hollywood productions cannot ensure the 100% safety of the actors. In 1995, during the shooting of Waterworld, Kevin Costner had to climb an approximately 12-meter-high ship's mast without being secured. Since this scene was not shot in a studio like others, but on the open sea, Costner was soon in mortal danger. At the very moment he reached the top of the mast, a storm came up. Since it was too dangerous for the rest of the crew to climb the mast and helicopters couldn't get close enough, Costner had to spend some time completely unsecured at a height of 12 meters in a strong wind. He was just able to hold on, but according to his own statements, he could hardly have endured this feat of strength any longer. The storm passed after 30 minutes and Costner was able to return to the ground unharmed. Let's continue on number 5 directly with an action hero who is not only one of the most legendary actors of all time, but for many is considered almost invulnerable, and that is Sylvester Stallone. Apart from films like Rambo or The Expendables, in which he became an action icon, there is another role that almost cost Stallone his life many decades ago, namely Rocky Balboa. In the 4th part of the famous series, Sylvester Stallone faced a breathtaking fight against Dolph Lundgren, or rather his character, Ivan Drago. What seems spectacular at first glance, since Lundgren is almost 2 meters tall and extremely muscular, is simply even more jaw-dropping at second glance. Instead of simulating the fight with clever trick techniques, Sylvester Stallone asked Lundgren to hit him as hard as possible and, in the best case, even knock him out. In this way, Stallone wanted the fight scene to look as authentic and real as possible. What he didn't expect, however, was that Lundgren actually hit so hard that Stallone ended up in the hospital. According to some observers, it was a miracle that he survived there, because Lundgren's blow is said to have been comparable to the force of a moving car. On number 4, we come to Harrison Ford, who in 2014 almost paid for the shooting of one of the greatest film comebacks of all time with his life. Namely, the work on Star Wars: The Force Awakens. In one scene, there was a technical failure that almost led to a catastrophe. In Han Solo's spaceship, of all things, there was a hydraulic door that closed at the exact moment Ford was standing in front of it. The door then pushed him to the ground with all its might, causing Ford to break his leg. Although nothing worse happened, if Ford had been standing just a little differently, the door could have crushed his head, ending his life. As a reaction, the producers sued the manufacturer of the door for $2 million because Harrison Ford's life was endangered in a negligent way. On number 3, we continue with a famous movie that is not particularly realistic, but whose filming was deadly serious, namely Back to the Future. In one scene, Marty McFly, played by Michael J. Fox, is hanged from a gallows in a western village. Instead of preparing the rope in such a way that the action looks real but is absolutely safe for Fox, the actor was actually hanged. The direction even went so far that Fox hung on the gallows for so long that he was unconscious for over 90 seconds because he could no longer breathe. It was only shortly before the end of his life that Fox was then rescued by the crew and he was finally able to breathe normally again. Although extremely authentic images were created in this way, such life-threatening filming methods are to be questioned extremely critically. On number 2, we continue with another action legend who is extremely proud of performing almost every stunt himself, Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan, considered by many to be the only legitimate successor to Bruce Lee, has starred in dozens of films. In none of them, however, was the filming as dangerous as in Project A from 1983. In this film, there is a scene in which Chan was supposed to drop from a height of 6 stories. 2 canopies made of fabric were placed between the drop point and the ground to break his fall. But these canopies only caused Chan to spin uncontrollably in the air and end up hitting the ground head first. Not only did he break his spine in this fall, but filming also had to be interrupted for several months. On number 1, we now come to an actor for whom it is a miracle for many that he is still alive at all after so many violent stunts. We are talking about none other than Daniel Craig, who has slipped into the role of James Bond 5 times from 2006 to 2021. The shooting of the latest film, No Time to Die, even had to be interrupted for several months because he broke his ankle during a scene. But this was not the only injury Craig suffered while working on a James Bond film. Not only did he bruise numerous ribs, sprain his knee, or need stitches in his face, but in 2006, he even had 2 teeth knocked out during the filming of Casino Royale. The injury was so severe that it could only be operated on by a doctor flown in from London. And that's it for our video. Let us know in the comments which of these moments you thought was the most awesome. Otherwise, like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to Wonderlane for more exciting content, and we'll see you next time here at Wonderlane.